Today on Variant, I talk about the Symbiote Hybrid, because you all wanted it. Welcome to Variant, where we love comics more than I can't wait to see Season 3 of The Flash. I'm your host, Arris. A few weeks back, I did a History of Scream episode to continue my history of symbiotes that I've been doing over the course of the show. And in that episode, I asked you guys to let me know in the comment section of that video if you would be interested in a History of Hybrid video, and the response was overwhelming to say the least. I also know that the History of Gohan and Miss Martian are highly requested episodes, so I just wanted to let you guys know I'll be getting to those in due time. But as for today's episode, it's time to talk about more symbiotes. And since you guys wanted it so bad, I present to you the History of Hybrid. Scott Washington, the host of Hybrid, first appeared as a guardsman in The New Warriors issue 21 in March of 1992. As for the Symbiote Hybrid, it first appeared in Venom Along Came a Spider issue 1 in January of 1996. We get the origin for Scott in Hybrid in the backup stories for the miniseries Venom Along Came a Spider. Scott Washington was one of the guards at the Vault. For those of you who don't know what the Vault is, it's a prison for superhuman criminals. While working at said prison, he became friends with one of the prisoners, Vance Astrovic, aka Justice, who was formerly known as Marvel Boy. He was put in that prison because, well, he kinda killed his father, and that's a no-no, kids. Anywho, Scott and his guard friend were soon transferred to Facility 12, where the scientists were studying 4 symbiotes, and those 4 symbiotes would be Lasher, Phage, Riot, and Agony. As we know from my History of Scream episode, those 4 symbiotes are the offspring/children of Venom. They were forcefully spawned from Venom when he was captured by the Life Foundation. If you want to know what the Life Foundation is and why they caught Venom, go watch my History of Scream episode. But anyway, Lasher, Phage, Riot, and Agony were caught and sent to the Vault after their sister Scream killed their hosts. While the symbiotes are being experimented on, at another location, Spider-Man, Venom, and Scarlet Spider set off a planet-wide shriek that allows the 4 symbiotes to break free. Being scared, the symbiotes bond together and become hybrid. After this, they briefly bonded with Scott and made him realize that they weren't evil or a threat, they were just scared. He even says, "Now I know that these 4 are different than the rest. They don't want to hurt anyone, they just want to escape to live." So with that, on top of him feeling bad for all the pain they were going through due to the experiments that the scientists were performing on them, he decided to let them escape. Of course, once his bosses found out about this, they fired him. And then on the last panel of Venom Along Came a Spider issue 1, we see Hybrid say, "Need Scott, and Scott needs us." After being fired, Scott returned to where he grew up, a gang-torn neighborhood in Brooklyn. Once he returns home, we see the Easy X gang try to take over a basketball court his brother Derek Washington is currently playing on. Scott doesn't take well to that and almost breaks one of the gang members' arms. The gang eventually leaves, but not before they say Scott and Derek better watch their backs. Flash forward a little bit, the gang breaks into their place and shoots Derek and Scott. Derek dies, and Scott is paralyzed from the waist down. Long story short, Hybrid eventually found Scott, at which point he started to bond with him. Scott was all like, "No, get away from me," at first, but once bonded, he realized that he could walk again, so he decided to use his new powers for what most villains and anti-heroes do: revenge. The funny part about this is that the Hybrid symbiote didn't want to join Scott so they could kill people. They even say something to the effect, "We need each other and can help each other. You understand us and could protect us." But once Hybrid bonded with them, they were like, "Crap, no, this isn't who you were before, bro." To which Scott replied, "You wanted to be partners, didn't you? Well, now you got your wish." Since Scott was so angry, the symbiotes tried to stop him from acts of violence. For instance, when he was trying to get revenge on the Easy X gang, the symbiote said, "Cannot allow murder, Scott." Hybrid goes on to say, "We are permanently bonded with you, Scott, but we are not Venom, we are not Carnage. We will not kill. You have changed so much, Scott." It's just so crazy that the symbiotes are trying to stop him from killing when it's usually the other way around. Eventually, Scott realizes killing won't change or fix anything, so he gives that killing won't change anything speech to the gang. But they could care less. A now hopeless Scott lets the gang get away. But an old friend tells him that it's not hopeless, which in turn makes Scott/Hybrid vow to protect his city. One thing I think is worth mentioning is that since the Hybrid symbiote was originally 4 different entities, Scott has to deal with something really unique. Instead of dealing with one voice in his head, he has to deal with 4 different voices and personalities on top of his own. Running around as Hybrid, Scott started to get a lot of attention from the press. Most of that was for good reasons, but it still got the attention of the jury, a team of former guardsmen of the Vault. This team of self-appointed justice fighters captured Hybrid and were going to kill him, just for being a symbiote. But never fear, friends, the new warrior saved him. His buddy Justice even asked if he wanted to join the group, but Scott said no because he had more important work to attend to, like cleaning up the streets of Brooklyn. Flashing forward a bit, after Eddie Brock lost everything, including his anti-Venom symbiote, to save New York City during Spider Island, he went on a symbiote hunting spree because he now hated them. The first symbiote he killed was none other than Hybrid, and then after that, he went on to kill Scream. But wait, I may have got ahead of myself. You know how I just said Eddie killed Hybrid? Well, as it turns out, he didn't. The 4 symbiotes somehow survived and were forcefully separated. The government then assigned each symbiote to a soldier. These 4 soldiers would be known as the Mercury Team and were sent out to capture Carnage. But you know Carnage, he can't be stopped for long, so he ends up ambushing the Mercury Team at their own base and then tears them apart. Literally. But the symbiotes survive. Speaking of tearing apart, he does the same to Deadpool when Deadpool was hunting him. The now hostless symbiotes bond with mother freaking Deadpool, making him become the new Hybrid, which is kind of awesome. After a crazy battle, Deadpool defeats Carnage by using the symbiotes. He then gives them to the dog that Team Mercury owned. He tells the dog to take them back to the governmental bigwigs, who will know how to take care of them. But just like that, my comic conrads, it's time to talk about some powers and abilities. Hybrid can wall crawl, sling webs, create bladed weapons with his tendrils, and he could also shape his symbiote in such a way that allows him to glide through the air. He also has camouflage capabilities and can shoot small pieces of his symbiote that can move on their own. He's even detached pieces of his symbiotes to use as trackers or send messages to his allies. Basically, he can pretty much do what all other symbiotes can do, with his own little twist on things here and there. And of course, I couldn't forget to leave you guys with some Hybrid reading recommendations. You have Venom Along Came a Spider issue 1 through 4, Venom issue 15, Carnage USA, the Venom Hunted series, and Deadpool vs. Carnage. I'm here with my buddy Greg Pak. For those of you who don't know, well, you should know who he is, but he's written a ton of amazing comics like Action Comics, World War Hulk, Batman v Superman, Planet Hulk. The list goes on and on. How are you, Greg?
I'm doing all right. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, yeah, thanks for being back on the show. But more recently, now you're doing a new book for Darkhorse Comics called Kingsway West. What can you tell us about that?
Look, I have an actual issue right here. Ooh. It comes out on Wednesday, August 4th, and it's a gorgeous book drawn by Mirko Kolak, written by yours truly. It's the story of a Chinese gunslinger in the Old West searching for his wife, but it's an Old West that's overrun with magic. So imagine a world in which the gold rush happened, but instead of digging up gold, they dug up a substance called red gold, which is the source of magic in this world. And so everything has changed.
Very cool. Now, what can you tell us about some of the characters that are in the actual book?
So our hero is Kingsway Law. He is a veteran of the Red Gold War. The Red Gold Wars that took place between the Chinese Queen of Golden City in Northern California and the Republic of Los Californios, La República de los Californios in the Southwest. So you've got different empires and different communities in the West. Those empires warred over the red gold. And so our hero kind of fought in that war and suffered through that war and committed atrocities during that war. Like a lot of classic Western heroes, has hung up his gun. He's ready to check out. And he has found a woman who feels the same way, a Mexican woman named Sonia, that's his wife, and has disappeared into the wild to live a life of peace. Mm-hmm. But it's a Western, and you can't just live a life of peace in a Western, right? So a mysterious woman, Chinese woman with a magic sword comes looking for him, and empires start to move again, and suddenly he's pulled back into this when his wife disappears. So he's pulled back into this crazy warring factions on the frontier, and he's just desperate to find his wife.
Well, it's just really cool. I love the concept that it's a Western, but now we also have magic involved. So we're like in that old type era, but we're getting like all this cool fantasy stuff. So what kind of shenanigans and cool things can you tease for us?
well, one of the big fun things was figuring out like a kind of manifestation of magic that makes sense for America. So we've got jackalopes and kinds of big feet-like creatures called bare feet. We've got dragons, including little small dragons that ride around on people's shoulders. And at the same time, you've got these, different folks are using this red gold in different ways to kind of power technology or to power other kinds of things. So different folks have figured out different uses for it. And so we'll learn a lot, see how all these different communities are using the magic as well.
Now, obviously, you can pick this book up at your local comic book shop, but where else? I'm sure there's multiple places, like online and stuff that they can pick it up.
If you read books digitally, you can get it at Comixology. Mm-hmm. They've got the website and the app that you can check out, and then also just to pre-order the book, like if you want to I mean, pre-ordering it's this weird thing in comics, but it is the number one thing you can do to support a book. And all that means is you're telling your local shop that you want the book, because print runs of comics are based on orders from shops. So I set up a website at kingswaywest.com. So it's just the title of the book.com. And if you go there, you'll find a pre-order form, and you can pick a store near you and pre-order the book.
All right, so if people want to follow you on the social media, on the internets, so to speak, how would they be able to do that?
I'm on Twitter at Greg Pak, GregPak, and I'm on Instagram at Greg Pak Pics. So it's Greg Pak with Pix at the end. Some other sneaky person got Greg Pak before I did.
First up for Wednesday, August 24th, we have Titans issue 2. In this issue, the Titans prepare to do the unthinkable in order to defeat the intergalactic demon that stole time itself from the DC universe. And finally, we have Flash issue 5. With Central City now protected by dozens of freshly trained Flashes, Barry Allen takes time out to explore a new relationship. And that brings another episode of Variant to a close. But before I go, I just want to give a special thanks for Greg Pak for coming on the show once again. And be sure to check out his Kingsway West series. It's really good, I promise. But with that said, remember you can always like our Variant Facebook page to keep up with the show and all things comic related. You can also follow Variant on Twitter at Variant Comics or me on Twitter at Arris_Quinones. But I'll see you guys next week when I talk about all things comics. As some of you may or may not know, sometimes in the outtakes I like to do staring contests, and I haven't done one in a while, so I think it's time to do one. So in 1, 2, 3, stare. My eyes are already burning. I'm doing better than I thought I would. Oh, my eyes are watering. Oh, dang it. All right. Did I win? Did you win? Let me know in the comment section.